Have you ever looked someone in the eyes, felt a warm smile, heard kind words, and still sensed something wasn't right? Like a quiet whisper inside warning you, even when everything on the surface seemed perfectly safe? That's not paranoia. That's your instinct, begging you to wake up. Because not everyone who looks like a friend has good intentions. Not everyone who says they care actually means it. The most dangerous people are often the ones who hide behind fake kindness, fake concern, and fake loyalty. And if you're not careful, you'll let them into your life, your trust, and even your heart until it's too late. The truth is, bad people don't always come with red flags waving in the wind. Sometimes they come wrapped in the very things we crave most: attention, understanding, validation. They study you. They watch what makes you smile, what makes you open up, what makes you feel seen. And they use it slowly, subtly, skillfully. Not with harsh words or open threats, but with false warmth, subtle guilt, and invisible control. They wear masks so perfect, so convincing, that by the time you see through them, the damage is already done. You feel drained, doubtful, lost, and worst of all, you start blaming yourself for not seeing it sooner. But here's the truth. This is not your fault. Being targeted doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. It means you have something they don't: real empathy, real emotion, real love. That's what they feed off of. That's what they twist and bend until you start questioning your own worth. That ends now. You're not here to be used. You're not here to be controlled. You're here to wake up, to open your eyes and finally learn how to recognize the signs. Not just so you can avoid being hurt again, but so you can reclaim your peace, your energy, and your power. Because once you see the truth, you can never unsee it. You start recognizing the patterns. The sweet talk, followed by manipulation. The praise, followed by pressure. The charm that fades the moment you set a boundary. You begin to understand that love doesn't demand you shrink yourself. That friendship doesn't make you feel small. That family doesn't leave you feeling alone. And most importantly, you realize that your gut feeling, the one you've been taught to ignore, is your greatest protector. Stay with this message, because in the next few minutes you're going to learn what no one ever taught you: how to spot the fake ones before they get close, how to trust yourself again, and how to walk through life without fear, clear, strong, and unshakably aware. You'll understand why certain people left you feeling heavy. You'll see the games for what they are, and you'll never be fooled the same way again. This isn't just about seeing others more clearly, it's about seeing yourself more powerfully. Your eyes open, heart guarded, spirit unbreakable. You're not just surviving anymore, you're learning how to rise. If you've ever wondered why you keep attracting the wrong people, the answer isn't that you're broken. It's not that you're blind or foolish. It's that you lead with your heart in a world that often rewards manipulation. You see the good in others, even when they show you the opposite. You give second chances. You listen to excuses. You stay silent just to keep peace. That's not weakness, that's your strength, misplaced. And it's time to take it back. Bad people don't seek out bad people. They seek out the kind, the generous, the ones who will bend instead of break. They look for open hearts, not guarded ones. They target those who care deeply, because they know that once you're emotionally invested, you'll fight to see the best in them, even when all the evidence says otherwise. It's not your fault you gave someone the benefit of the doubt, but it becomes your responsibility to stop giving it to those who only take. This is how they work. They study your patterns. They find your emotional soft spots. They sense your need to be understood, appreciated, and loved. And they become the perfect reflection of everything you desire. At first, but slowly the mirror starts to crack. You notice subtle shifts, inconsistencies. You feel exhausted around them, drained, but you don't know why. That's because they're not just taking your time or attention. They're feeding off your energy. And every time you ignore that discomfort, every time you silence your gut, you fall deeper into their trap. You keep trying to fix things, to explain yourself, to prove your worth. But the truth is, you were never the problem. They just saw your light and decided to dim it. You weren't too much. You were too kind for someone who only knew how to take. But no more. You don't need to keep proving you're good to people who already know it and plan to use it against you. The most powerful shift you can make is to start protecting your energy as fiercely as you give it. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to walk away without guilt. You're allowed to choose peace over chaos, truth over illusion, strength over suffering. And yes, it may feel uncomfortable at first. It may feel like you're losing people. But what you're actually losing are illusions, attachments, and chains. What you're gaining is clarity, confidence, and control over your own life. You don't need to harden your heart. You just need to guard it with wisdom. You don't have to stop trusting people. You just have to start trusting yourself first. When you lead with awareness, not just emotion, you become unshakable. You no longer attract people who drain you because your energy no longer welcomes them. That's the shift. That's the power. And it starts the moment you decide, my kindness is a gift, not a weakness. And it will no longer be wasted on those who only pretend to deserve it. Not everyone who smiles at you is safe. Some people use charm the way a hunter uses bait. They wear friendliness like a mask, but it's not real. It's a tool, a performance. And if you don't look closely, you'll mistake their act for authenticity. You'll trust the tone of their voice instead of the intention behind it. You'll believe their compliments, even when something deep inside you whispers that their praise feels off. That's because charm isn't connection. It's control dressed up to look like warmth. Fake people are masters of this. They study what makes others feel good, what earns trust, what opens doors, what creates quick bonds. They use eye contact. They mirror your body language. They talk about things you care about, so it feels like you found someone who gets you. But it's calculated. It's designed to bypass your defenses. And if you're not paying attention, it works. Not because you're foolish, but because you're human. Because all of us want to feel seen. All of us want to be understood. But you can't confuse attention with intention. You can't confuse flattery with respect. The most dangerous people aren't the ones who argue with you. They're the ones who agree with everything, who make you feel too comfortable too fast. They don't push you. They pull you. They make you feel special before you even know who they really are. And that's the trap. When someone gives you more connection than time has earned, more closeness than trust has built, it's not intimacy, it's manipulation. Real connection grows slowly. It's earned. It doesn't rush to impress. It reveals itself with honesty, not with a script. This is where your power comes in. You don't need to distrust everyone, but you must learn to pause, to notice the difference between someone who is being real and someone who is performing to get close. Listen for consistency. Watch for alignment between words and actions. Real people don't just sound kind, they behave kindly even when it's inconvenient. Fake people say all the right things but leave you confused, exhausted, on edge, because what they say doesn't match how they make you feel. Trust that feeling, that quiet tension in your body, that hesitation in your mind. It's not anxiety, it's intelligence. It's your nervous system trying to protect you before your logic catches up. Learn to listen. Learn to slow down. You don't owe anyone your trust just because they know how to smile. You owe it to yourself to protect your peace, your energy, your future. You've given too much of yourself to people who wore masks. Now, you learn to look deeper. Now, you see through the performance. You're not cold. You're conscious. You're not bitter. You're clear. And clarity is strength. From this moment on, your guard isn't a wall, it's a filter. Only the real ones get through. And you're no longer fooled by surface charm. You're guided by truth. There's a moment in every toxic connection when your body knows the truth, but your mind fights it. You feel the shift. The way they talk to you changes. The way they look at you. There's a distance, a coldness, a twist in the energy. But instead of walking away, you explain it away. You say they're just tired. You tell yourself not to overthink. You focus on the good days, the nice words, the shared memories. And that's how the damage begins, not all at once, but in tiny betrayals you learn to tolerate. Bad people don't break you overnight. They erode you, slowly, quietly. They confuse you until you start to doubt your own feelings. One day you're sure something is wrong. The next, you're wondering if you're the problem. That cycle is intentional. They feed you just enough kindness to keep you from leaving, then twist the knife when you're vulnerable. They apologize with charm. They justify with guilt. They keep you locked in a loop of highs and lows until you don't know which way is up. That pattern has a name. It's manipulation through confusion. And it works because you're trying to be fair, because you want to believe the best. But while you're giving chances, they're taking advantage. Every ignored red flag becomes permission. Every excuse you make becomes a door left open. And deep down, you know this isn't love. This isn't friendship. This isn't what connection is supposed to feel like, but you stay because part of you hopes it will change. That's not weakness, that's loyalty misplaced. You don't need to stay loyal to someone who's breaking you. You don't need to keep proving your worth to someone who only sees it when it benefits them. The people who care about you don't make you question your value. They don't create confusion. They don't shift blame or twist your words. They hold space for your feelings. They honor your boundaries. They lift you when you're low, not push you lower. You deserve that kind of presence, that kind of truth, that kind of peace. The real turning point happens the moment you stop rewriting their behavior to fit your hopes. When you stop explaining away what your body already knows, when you stop begging for the bare minimum and start demanding the respect you were always worthy of, that's when healing begins. That's when strength returns. That's when clarity cuts through the fog and you finally see things as they are, not as you wish they were. You're not too sensitive. You're not asking for too much. You're asking the wrong people. And now that you recognize the pattern, you have the power to break it. You can choose to stop dancing around their dysfunction. You can choose to stand still in your truth and let it guide you forward. No more doubting what you feel. No more shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. Your peace is worth protecting. And the first step is listening to what you've always known. The patterns are always there, hidden beneath the surface, disguised as connection, cloaked in flattery, but consistent every time. Fake people don't show up by accident. They show up with a plan. They know what to say, how to act, and when to switch their behavior to get what they want. And once you learn to recognize those patterns, you take back control. Because the moment you can name it, you can stop it. No more second guessing. No more hoping someone will change. You see it, and you act. They start with intensity. Too much, too fast. They praise you, elevate you, make you feel chosen. It feels incredible until it doesn't. Because the moment you stop meeting their needs, that warmth turns cold. Then comes the guilt, the subtle comments, the silent treatment, the after everything I've done for you line. That's not love, that's control. Real love doesn't demand loyalty through fear or pressure. It invites it through safety and respect. But fakes twist it. They flip the narrative until you're apologizing for the things they caused, until you forget who you were before they arrived. Then they isolate, slowly, gently. They plant seeds of doubt about your friends, your family, or even your own judgment. They'll say things like, I'm the only one who really understands you. It sounds sweet, but it's not love, it's ownership. They don't want to share your attention, your strength, your clarity, so they weaken it. Not by force, but by suggestion. And it works because you care, because you want to believe someone finally sees you. But they don't. They only see what they can take. The final piece is gaslighting. They rewrite your reality, and if you challenge it, they act wounded, confused, defensive. You start questioning what's real. You wonder if you're being too emotional, too dramatic, too much. That's the trap. They make you doubt your truth so they can control the story, but you can end it the moment you choose clarity over confusion. The moment you stop negotiating with manipulation. The moment you remember that you don't need permission to trust your instincts. You are not powerless. You are not stuck. You are not crazy. You are waking up. You are seeing the game for what it is. You are learning to decode the tactics and reclaim your boundaries. The mask only works when you believe it's real. But once you see the cracks, once you feel the truth behind the words, there's no going back. You start walking differently, thinking differently, choosing differently. Let this be your turning point. Let this be the moment you stop excusing patterns just because the person feels familiar. Let this be the moment you break the cycle and remember who you were before their shadow entered your light. You are not here to be controlled. You are here to rise, to grow, to lead with strength, not fear. The patterns are clear now, and so is your power. You saw the signs, maybe not all at once, maybe not loud and obvious, but you felt them in the pit of your stomach, in the quiet unease that followed their words, in the tension that built when their actions didn't match their promises. Deep down you knew, but you looked away. You softened the truth. You told yourself to wait, to be patient, to give it time. You thought maybe it was just you. Maybe you were overreacting. Maybe you were being too sensitive. That hesitation, that self-doubt is exactly what they rely on. Bad people don't just manipulate others. They make you manipulate yourself. They plant ideas in your mind and step back while you do the work for them. You explain their behavior. You justify their outbursts. You reframe their cruelty as stress, their distance as distraction, their lies as misunderstanding. You become so good at making excuses for them that you lose touch with what's actually true. That's not love. That's emotional survival. and it comes at a cost. Every time you ignore your intuition, you weaken the voice inside you meant to protect you. Every time you rewrite a red flag as a fluke, you build tolerance for disrespect. Every time you hold in your truth to keep the peace, you betray your own heart. And you carry the weight of that betrayal in your energy, in your spirit, in your self-esteem. You wake up tired, unsure, scattered, and you don't even know why. But now you do. You know what silence costs. You know what suppression steals. And you're not here to live that way anymore. You're here to reclaim your voice, to stop pretending that something feels right when it clearly doesn't, to stop shrinking to fit relationships that only grow when you disappear. You're allowed to call it what it is. You're allowed to say, this is manipulation. This is control. This is not okay. You don't need anyone else's permission to name what hurts you. You don't need a breakdown to justify your boundaries. It's enough that it doesn't feel good. It's enough that it drains you. That's reason enough to walk away. The fear of speaking up is real. You worry you'll be called difficult, dramatic, selfish, but the price of staying silent is far higher than the risk of being misunderstood. Because your silence doesn't protect you, it imprisons you. It ties you to people who feed off your compliance. It keeps you locked in a version of yourself that was never meant to last. This is your chance to step forward, not with anger, but with clarity, not with fear, but with truth. You don't need to scream to be strong. You don't need to fight to be free. All you need is a decision to stop letting discomfort be your normal. You already know what doesn't feel right. Trust that knowing. Honor it. Let it guide you out of confusion and into power, because your voice is not a weapon, it's a key, and you're ready to use it. Your instincts don't need proof to be valid. You don't have to wait for someone to hurt you twice to believe the first time was real. That uneasy feeling in your chest, that tightness in your throat, that sense that something is off, those are not weaknesses. They are warnings. They are your inner intelligence working faster than logic, faster than language, picking up what your eyes can't yet see. That is your power. And it's time to stop silencing it just to keep the peace with people who create war inside you. You were taught to doubt yourself, taught to override discomfort in the name of politeness, taught to give people the benefit of the doubt while doubting your own feelings. You were trained to put others first, to be easygoing, to be agreeable, to be liked. But that training cost you something. It made you question your own truth. It made you ignore the quiet tension in your body until it became a roar. And it's not your fault. But it is now your responsibility to unlearn what taught you to distrust yourself and to rebuild a relationship with the voice inside you that's always known what's right. You don't need to explain why someone makes you uncomfortable. You don't owe anyone justification for your boundaries. If something feels wrong, that's enough. If someone's presence drains your spirit, that's enough. If you walk away from a conversation feeling smaller, not stronger, that's enough. Your gut doesn't lie. Your intuition doesn't stutter. The only reason you haven't always listened is because someone convinced you to believe their story over your own signals. That ends now. From this point forward, you no longer delay action waiting for more evidence. You don't need betrayal to hurt more than once. You don't need the manipulation to become louder before you finally step back. You trust the whisper. You trust the early signs. You trust the vibe before the words, the feeling before the facts. You walk away at the first twist in your stomach, not after your soul is exhausted. That is wisdom. That is self-respect. That is survival upgraded into strength. You're not cold for pulling away from people who make you feel unsafe. You're not cruel for choosing space over chaos. You're not selfish for listening to your body and acting before your mind catches up. You're smart. You're aware. You're becoming immune to the charm of those who once had power over your peace. That shift is not loud. It's not dramatic. It's quiet, calm, firm, and it changes everything. This is the new standard. If it costs your peace, it's too expensive. If it silences your instincts, it's not for you. If it forces you to betray your own truth, it's a clear no. Your body always knew. Now your mind is finally catching up. Stay aligned. Stay grounded. Trust what you feel even when you can't explain it, because the moment you do, your life begins to belong to you again. Some people don't care about who you are. They care about what you give. Your time, your attention, your loyalty, your silence. They come close not to know you, but to use you. And if you're not aware, you'll keep mistaking their interest for love, their attention for respect, their presence for truth. But the ones who manipulate you don't do it with cruelty at first. They do it with charm, with admiration, with flattery that feels like sunshine until it starts to burn. And if you're not paying attention, you'll feel guilty for stepping away from someone who never truly saw you to begin with. Charm is a strategy, not a virtue. It's how fake people bypass your inner radar. They smile, they agree, they make you feel important. They give you just enough validation to earn your trust, but not enough consistency to build anything real. And that's how the confusion starts, because you're not wrong to respond to kindness. You're human. You crave connection, meaning, safety. But what you must learn is this: not all connection is good. Not all closeness is healthy. Some people come close just to disarm you. There's a difference between someone who genuinely wants to understand you and someone who mirrors you to gain control. Real people take time to learn your heart. Fake ones scan for your weaknesses. They study what makes you open up, what makes you feel seen, and they use it to create false intimacy. You feel special, needed, chosen. But you're not chosen for who you are, you're chosen because of what they can get. And when you no longer serve that purpose, their mask slips. Charm without consistency is manipulation. Flattery without action is a red flag. Affection that disappears when you set boundaries is not love, it's exposure. It reveals who they really are. Watch what happens when you say no, when you stop performing, when you ask for respect instead of just giving it. If their warmth fades, it was never real. If their support disappears, it was never loyalty. You don't need to test them with conflict, just show up with truth, and the illusion will collapse. You've seen it before, you just didn't trust it. You gave the benefit of the doubt. You held on to potential instead of reality. But now, you don't need more pain to make a decision. You don't need more chaos to confirm your gut. You're done letting charm confuse your wisdom. You're done letting words mean more than actions. You're done letting the appearance of care override the absence of real effort. From this moment on, you hold people to a new standard. You no longer fall for sweet talk without substance. You no longer accept connection that costs your clarity. You no longer chase anyone who makes you question your worth. Charm may catch attention, but character earns trust. And you're no longer available to those who perform the first, but can't live the second. There is nothing unkind about protecting your peace. There is nothing wrong with deciding that your well-being matters more than someone else's comfort. The people who guilt you for having boundaries are the same ones who benefited from you having none. They're not angry because you hurt them. They're angry because you stopped letting them hurt you. And that shift, when you stop giving unlimited access to people who drain you, is where your strength is born. You don't need to feel bad for choosing yourself. You've spent enough time putting others first, second, third, while placing your needs last. You've smiled when you wanted to scream. You've agreed when you wanted to walk away. You've said it's okay when it wasn't. But that version of you no longer exists. The version that tolerated discomfort to avoid disappointing others is fading. What remains is the real you, the one who knows your limits and is no longer afraid to live by them. Boundaries aren't walls, they're clarity, they're honesty. They're your way of saying, this is what's okay, this is what isn't. And I'm not afraid to stand by it. You don't owe long explanations, you don't owe guilt-soaked justifications. You owe yourself safety, you owe yourself peace. You owe yourself the life that comes when you stop breaking yourself into pieces to keep others whole. The people who truly care about you will respect your boundaries. They will honor your no. They won't push past your limits just to get their way. And those who do, they were never meant to stay. You were not made to carry the weight of everyone else's emotions. You were not born to sacrifice your truth for someone else's approval. It is not your job to be easy, agreeable, or endlessly forgiving. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to say no without explanation. You are allowed to protect your time, your energy, and your mental clarity. That isn't rude. That's survival. That's self-respect in motion. You may lose people when you begin to enforce your boundaries. Let them go. Let the silence they leave behind teach you everything you need to know. Because anyone who leaves when you begin to honor yourself was never there for the real you. They were there for the version of you who tolerated mistreatment, who gave and gave until there was nothing left. That version served its purpose, but now you're evolving. This is your reminder that peace is a choice, that clarity is power, that no is a full sentence. You don't need to argue for your limits. You don't need to convince anyone that your comfort matters. You just need to be willing to disappoint the wrong people in order to protect the right version of yourself. The one who isn't afraid to be clear, the one who's done shrinking, the one who's ready to rise, not with apology, but with certainty. Our boundaries are not barriers to connection. They are the foundation of real, healthy, lasting connection. And now you lead with them. You don't need closure to walk away. You don't need their apology, their explanation, or their approval. Waiting for someone who disrespected your boundaries to suddenly respect your healing is a trap. It keeps you tied to pain under the illusion of peace. Some people will never admit what they did. They will never own their harm because doing so would destroy the story they tell themselves to sleep at night. And the longer you wait for them to validate your experience, the longer you stay locked in the same cycle that broke you in the first place. You are allowed to leave quietly, to remove yourself without warning. To end the conversation not with anger, but with clarity. Silence is not weakness when it comes from strength. When you've said all there is to say, when you've explained more times than you should have had to, when your truth has been ignored or twisted, walking away is not a loss, it's a reclaiming, a declaration that your energy is no longer up for negotiation. You don't owe anyone a dramatic exit. You don't need to burn bridges, scream, or make a scene. You simply stop engaging with what drains you. You release the need to convince. You let go of the fantasy that if you say it right, they'll finally understand. Some people refuse to hear you, not because you're unclear, but because your truth threatens the control they held over you. They will play the victim. They will paint you as cold. Let them. Because their version of the story doesn't change your reality. What matters is that you protect your peace, that you walk in alignment with your values, that you choose yourself fully and unapologetically. That's not selfish, it's sacred. It's what happens when you finally see that you've given enough, loved enough, tried enough. And now it's time to rise above the noise and disappear from the cycle, not as an escape, but as an act of power, as an act of liberation. You are not abandoning anyone by removing yourself from toxicity. You are not heartless for choosing your own healing over someone else's dysfunction. You are not wrong for wanting distance, silence, and stillness. That is where your clarity returns. That is where you rebuild. That is where you learn to live without explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Let them wonder why you left. Let them sit with the silence they once forced on you. You don't need to keep proving that you were right to walk away. Your peace is proof enough. Your calm is the closure. And your freedom is the final word. Now, you walk with dignity. You choose what aligns. You release what doesn't. You don't chase. You don't argue. You don't beg. You know who you are. You know what you deserve. And you're done making yourself small to fit into places your soul has already outgrown. Quiet strength is still strength, and you carry it now in every step forward. When you leave behind the noise, the silence will feel unfamiliar. After walking through chaos, peace can almost feel like emptiness. But it's not emptiness. It's space. It's room to breathe, to feel, to hear your own voice again without it being twisted by someone else's agenda. You're not losing anything real by letting go of what was fake. What you're experiencing is not absence. It's clarity. It's what happens when you finally remove the distractions that kept you disconnected from your own power. The truth is, you may have spent so long second-guessing yourself that you forgot what it feels like to trust your own thoughts. You may have adapted to dysfunction, mistaking it for connection, because that's what you were conditioned to expect. But now, in the quiet, you begin to see the patterns. You begin to feel what's real. And most of all, you begin to come back to yourself. Not the version shaped by someone else's approval, not the one that twisted itself to avoid conflict. The real you. The grounded, clear, intuitive self who always knew when something didn't feel right. This is where the healing begins, not in fixing what broke you, but in rebuilding the trust you lost with yourself. You don't need to rush into another relationship, another friendship, another role to feel whole again. What you need is to get still long enough to hear yourself clearly, to remember that your worth was never measured by how much pain you could tolerate. Your value isn't found in how well you can carry what others dump on you. It's found in how deeply you protect your peace, your truth, and your energy. Every moment you spend choosing yourself is an act of restoration. Every time you listen to your body's signals, set a boundary, or say no without guilt, you reclaim the parts of you that were once buried under someone else's expectations. You begin to see that trust isn't something you have to give away quickly. It's something that must be earned. And that includes earning it back with yourself. It starts with small steps. Telling the truth even when your voice shakes, saying yes only when you mean it, pausing when something feels off. These are not weaknesses. They are strength in motion. They are the foundation of your new life. You're not broken. You're rebuilding. You're not lost. You're returning. You are learning to walk through the world with discernment, not fear, with confidence, not defensiveness, with self-respect, not self-sacrifice. This is not a setback. It's a new beginning, a quieter one, a more grounded one. But make no mistake, it's powerful, because this time you're not molding yourself to fit in, you're rising from within, fully aware, fully present, fully you. And there is nothing more unstoppable than someone who has learned to trust themselves again. There's a moment when everything shifts, not because the world outside changes, but because you finally stop betraying yourself. You stop ignoring the red flags. You stop making excuses for people who show you their worst and expect you to accept it. You stop lowering your standards just to feel loved. You stop abandoning your intuition just to keep the peace. And in that moment, something powerful happens. You reclaim your identity. You begin to live from truth, not fear, from strength, not survival. That's where real transformation begins. You've spent enough time shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. Enough time pretending you didn't feel what you felt. Enough time laughing off comments that cut deep, enduring behavior that drained your soul, and convincing yourself that loyalty meant staying silent. But now you see clearly. Real loyalty starts with being loyal to your own peace. And that means letting go of the people who never respected it. You don't need to justify why you no longer allow access to those who abused it. You only need to remember who you are when you're not weighed down by their expectations. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are not here to fix broken people who refuse to grow. You are not here to sacrifice your emotional well-being for the sake of being nice. You are here to rise, to lead your life with purpose, with vision, and with boundaries that protect your energy like your life depends on it, because it does. Every time you allow someone to stay who constantly drains you, you teach yourself that your peace is negotiable, and it's not. Not anymore. This new path requires courage. Not the loud kind, not the dramatic kind, but the quiet courage to walk away without regret, to let people misunderstand you without rushing to defend your truth, to know that your value doesn't decrease when someone else refuses to see it. You become unshakable when your validation is internal, when your self-worth no longer depends on how others respond to your strength. Some people won't like this version of you, the one who speaks with clarity, the one who no longer tolerates disrespect, the one who calls out manipulation with calm, unwavering energy. And that's okay. You weren't meant to be understood by everyone. You were meant to live in alignment with who you really are, not who you had to become to survive toxic spaces. This is your time to step fully into your truth, to own your voice, to stop watering yourself down for people who only liked you when you were quiet. You owe no one the version of you that was created in fear. You owe yourself everything you lost while trying to please people who never deserved your presence. Keep going. Keep rising. Keep protecting your light, because the more you do, the more unstoppable you become. And the people meant for you will never ask you to dim your fire just to stay close. You don't need to explain your growth to anyone who benefited from your lack of boundaries. Let that truth settle deep within you. The more you rise, the more they'll resist. Not because you're wrong, but because your strength exposes their manipulation. When you reclaim your worth, you interrupt their control. When you speak your truth, you dismantle their illusion. And when you choose peace over chaos, you end the cycle that fed their ego. This is why you feel the pushback. But don't confuse resistance with failure. It's confirmation. You are no longer available for what once broke you. It's not your job to convince people to treat you with basic respect. It's not your responsibility to keep tolerating pain just because you're afraid to lose a connection. If love comes at the cost of your self-respect, it was never love. It was dependency wrapped in emotional manipulation. Let that go. Stop bargaining with your soul just to keep people around who only show up when they need something. You deserve consistency, not confusion. You deserve support, not sabotage. You deserve to feel safe, not small. You've already survived the hardest part, being mistreated while trying to stay kind. Now it's time to rise from that. With boundaries that don't bend under pressure, with standards that aren't shaken by charm, with a heart that still loves but no longer allows abuse to wear the mask of connection, you are allowed to say no. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to protect your energy like your life depends on it, because it does. Every toxic exchange drains more than your mood. It chips away at your identity. It clouds your clarity. It distorts your perception of what love should feel like. No more. You are entering a season where truth guides you, not fear, not guilt, not people-pleasing. You no longer need to keep the peace by silencing your instincts. Your silence served them. Your truth will serve you. Speak it even when your voice shakes. Choose it even when it's not welcomed. Stand in it even when you stand alone, because that truth is your freedom. It's your shield. It's your reset. Stop giving endless chances to people who only come close to drain you. Stop explaining your standards to those who mock them. Stop hoping that someone who's shown you who they are will suddenly become someone different. Let their actions be the closure. Let your peace be the reward. Let your healing be the proof that you didn't break, you evolved. Your strength is no longer in how much you can endure. It's in how quickly you walk away from anything that dishonors your spirit. You are not here to be consumed. You are here to rise, fully aware, deeply grounded, unshakably clear. You've outgrown the version of you that tolerated the bare minimum. From here forward, you meet life with purpose, with discernment, with power, because you finally know not everyone deserves access to you. You don't need to keep proving yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Let that sink in. You've spent too long explaining your heart to those who never listened, showing your loyalty to those who never respected it, and offering your love to those who only saw it as weakness. That ends now. Because when you begin to value yourself, you stop entertaining conversations that drain your spirit. You stop chasing validation from those who benefit from your insecurity. You stop lowering your frequency just to stay in rooms where you're not even seen clearly. And that is where your power begins. You were not made to be small. You were not made to tiptoe around fragile egos or walk on eggshells just to avoid conflict. That is not peace. That is fear dressed up in politeness. And it's time to return that costume. Because peace isn't the absence of conflict, it's the presence of truth. It's being able to speak without fear, to feel safe in your presence, to be fully yourself without needing to shrink or filter. Anything less than that is not love, not friendship, not worth your time. Every time you suppress your feelings to keep someone else comfortable, you abandon yourself. Every time you second guess your boundaries because you're afraid to seem too much, you dilute your power. And every time you excuse toxic behavior as just the way they are, you trade your self-respect for connection. That trade is too expensive. Your soul can't afford it anymore. The real you, the strong, grounded, clear version, deserves to breathe freely, to exist without apology, to walk into any space knowing you belong, not because someone approved of you, but because you approved of yourself. You've tried the other way. You've bent, folded, and compromised so much that you lost shape. But now you're remembering who you are, and that memory is bringing everything into focus. You no longer need to match energy. You set the tone. You no longer need to wait for someone to validate your intuition. You trust it. You no longer hope for people to change. You choose not to engage. That's how you protect your light. That's how you honor your journey. That's how you win. Some will call you cold. Others will call you selfish, but only because they can no longer access the version of you they could manipulate. Don't shrink to fit back into places you've outgrown. Don't soften truth to be accepted by those who live in denial. Growth requires disruption. It requires discomfort. And it absolutely requires boundaries, not because you're angry, but because you're healing. Not because you hate them, but because you finally love you. You've given enough. You've tried enough. Now it's time to live with clarity, with standards, with conviction. From this point forward, you're not asking for peace. You're creating it. And no one who threatens that peace deserves a seat at your table. Keep your energy sacred. You've earned the right to protect it. When your peace starts costing people their control, they will call you difficult. When your clarity disrupts their game, they will say you've changed. And when your strength makes their manipulation useless, they'll try to paint you as the problem. Don't let it shake you. That discomfort you feel when others react to your boundaries is proof you're finally breaking the pattern. You're no longer playing the role they assigned you, the one where you stayed silent, agreeable, and easy to use. You're rewriting the script. And not everyone will applaud, because not everyone benefits from the healed version of you. You are not cold for saying no. You are not heartless for protecting your energy. You are not rude for refusing to participate in dynamics that once drained you. These are not flaws. These are signs of growth, of self-respect, of waking up to who you really are. Every time you choose yourself, you teach your subconscious that you are worth protecting, that you matter, that your feelings, your time, your space are valid. You no longer need to be liked by everyone, especially not by those who only liked you when you didn't like yourself. Start paying attention to how people respond when you stop overgiving, when you stop explaining, when you stop apologizing for taking up space. The ones who love you will understand. The ones who used you will resist. That's not your cue to shrink. It's your signal to rise, to stand taller, to speak clearer, to keep choosing yourself, especially when it feels hard. Because your healing will cost you relationships. Your truth will make some people uncomfortable. But losing people who never truly saw you is not a loss. It's a clearing. It's alignment. It's space for what's real. Not everyone has the emotional maturity to respect your boundaries. Not everyone has the integrity to handle your honesty. But that's not your problem to solve. It's their reflection to face. You are no longer responsible for other people's comfort at the expense of your own well-being. That was the old version of you, the one who feared rejection more than self-betrayal. But you've evolved, you've learned, you've reached a point where self-abandonment is no longer an option. Your soul is craving truth, your spirit is demanding alignment, and anything that threatens your peace must go. You're not bitter, you're just no longer blind. You see the red flags now, you feel the shift in energy, you trust the tension that signals something isn't right. That awareness is your power. Don't ignore it just to keep the connection. Don't override it to avoid being alone. Loneliness is not the enemy, misaligned company is. Protecting yourself is not being harsh, it's being wise. It's being awake. It's finally honoring what your intuition always knew. You've earned the right to live with intention, to surround yourself with authenticity, to stop explaining your worth to people who never deserved access to you in the first place. From here on, your peace is non-negotiable, your clarity is sacred, and your truth is your path forward. If someone only treats you well when they want something, that's not kindness, that's calculation. If someone praises you in public but cuts you down in private, that's not honesty, that's control. The deeper you go into self-awareness, the more clearly you see the quiet patterns. The tone in their voice when you succeed, the silence when you're hurting, the way they suddenly become unavailable when you have needs of your own. These are not small things, they are clues. And the more you value yourself, the more you realize that love without respect is manipulation in disguise. You are allowed to expect consistency. You are allowed to require honesty. You are allowed to walk away from anyone who chips away at your self-worth, no matter how long they've been in your life. Your history with someone does not justify their disrespect. Shared memories do not excuse repeated harm. You're not heartless for letting go. You're wise. You've seen the cost of staying loyal to pain. You've witnessed what it does to your spirit to stay quiet, to stay small, to stay stuck, all to avoid confrontation. But silence does not buy peace. It buys regret. When you choose peace over people-pleasing, you'll lose the ones who only stayed because you made life easy for them. That's a gift. Let them go. You are not here to be manageable. You are not here to be endlessly forgiving. You are here to grow, to evolve, to rise above the cycles that once held you hostage. And breaking free won't always feel comfortable. It will stretch you. It will test you. But comfort is not the same as safety, and safety doesn't come from others. It begins with how deeply you trust yourself. Listen to your inner voice when it whispers, "This doesn't feel right." That voice is your guide. That tension in your chest is not weakness, it's wisdom. You've spent enough time doubting yourself, enough time making excuses for other people's behavior, enough time explaining your value to those who only showed up when it was convenient for them. You no longer need to beg for clarity, for closure, for crumbs of connection. You are worthy of relationships that feel safe, steady, and sincere. Let your standards be loud. Let your boundaries be firm. Let your energy speak for itself. You don't owe anyone continued access to you just because they're used to taking. You are allowed to outgrow the versions of yourself that tolerated too much. You are allowed to redefine what you deserve. And you are allowed to protect the life you're building, even if it means disappointing those who never truly showed up for you. There is strength in detachment. There is power in discernment. And there is freedom in walking away from what no longer aligns. You are not cold. You are clear. You are not distant. You are healed. And from this place of clarity, you don't just survive, you thrive. Because now your life is yours. When you stop trying to prove your worth to the wrong people, you start reclaiming your power. You begin to see that your energy is sacred, your time is precious, and your peace is non-negotiable. No more over-explaining. No more chasing validation. No more shrinking yourself to be accepted by people who benefit from your silence. You weren't born to be tolerated. You were born to be valued. And the moment you choose to honor your own spirit is the moment you become unstoppable. There is nothing selfish about protecting your space. There is nothing rude about setting boundaries. In fact, it's one of the highest forms of self-respect. Because when you no longer allow toxic energy to linger, you create room for the kind of relationships that nourish, support, and uplift you. The ones that make you feel safe in your vulnerability, not used by your compassion. You don't owe anyone access to your light if they only show up to dim it. It's not your job to carry what others refuse to heal. You can care about someone and still choose to walk away from their chaos. There will be people who label your growth as arrogance, people who call your clarity attitude, people who mistake your distance for bitterness. Let them. Their opinion of your evolution is irrelevant because they never understood your pain. They never felt the weight you carried. They never knew the nights you cried silently, hoping for something real, something honest, something kind. They only saw the version of you that served their needs, not the one who suffered quietly while pretending everything was fine. You're not that person anymore. You've done the inner work, you've learned the lessons, you've faced the hard truths, and now you move differently. You no longer entertain conversations that go in circles. You no longer chase people who make you feel like a burden. You no longer try to fix what you didn't break. That's growth. That's maturity. That's healing. And it doesn't need to be explained. The right people will feel it. They'll recognize your strength. They'll meet you with the same energy, the same depth, the same level of emotional honesty. You are not meant to walk this world half alive, drained by connections that deplete your soul. You are meant to rise, to radiate, to stand tall in the fullness of who you are. So choose people who choose you, who see you, hear you, and respect you, who don't manipulate you into guilt, who don't take your silence as permission to continue hurting you. Your boundaries are a declaration of your worth, not an invitation for negotiation. You've given enough chances. You've held on long enough. Now it's time to hold yourself, to back yourself, to stand so firm in your truth that no fake smile or sweet lie can ever shake your foundation again. You are not disposable. You are not replaceable. You are rare, and your presence is a privilege. Never forget that.